guilty of attempted murder and guilty of possession of a weapon for unlawful purpose. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Schellhorn. I will turn now to the defense opening.
Help. I'm in fear of my life. Help. I fear for my life. Someone, anyone, please help me. I'm in fear of my life. Those are the cries for help from Michael Barisone. Those cries fell on deaf ears. My name is Edward Bilinkas. At counsel table, Christopher Dianker and I are charged with representing Michael Barisone. An awesome responsibility. Stop and think for a second of the magnitude. Presume, as the law requires, demands, that my client is innocent. If I get a little emotional, excited, I raise my voice, I mean no disrespect. I am the only thing standing between this man and a wrongful conviction. Me and the truth. I have his life in my hands. I accept that responsibility. On August 7th, 2019, Lauren Kanarek was shot twice. A third bullet was discharged. Fortunately, it didn't hit anyone. Thank God she survived, is riding again, and living a normal life. It's a tragedy that Lauren Kanarek was shot on that day. That said, there is another tragedy. A tragedy that will be played out in this courtroom. The tragic story of Michael Barisone. An Olympic athlete, a world-class dressage trainer, a man who on the outside appeared strong, confident, in total control, but what the evidence will show, a much different picture. A man who had a horrible childhood, was physically abused by his mother, sexually molested by a neighbor over and over and over again. A man who left home to get away from all of that and found solitude, security in the equestrian community. A man who worked his way up to the top of the ladder, the top of his field, but behind the scenes was struggling with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, even delusions. You'll learn that for over a 20-year period prior to the shooting, he was seeing a therapist on and off. As the prosecutor said, he's now charged with 4 crimes. As the judge instructed you, the indictment is not evidence. And what brings this case before you? It's a vehicle to allow us to come up here and argue this case. That grand jury only heard one side, which I submit is going to be a lot different what all of you will hear in this courtroom. defense wasn't there to question or challenge the state's case. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that the prosecutor's case is flawed. You will learn that they did little or no evidence with regards to what actually happened on August 7th. Worst off, they ignored what transpired prior to the shooting and are now trying to fill in the blanks after the fact. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that the prosecutor's only evidence will come from the testimony of the two alleged victims. Two people who have lied over and over and over again, left things out, and changed their story. Their words, after you hear the whole truth, will cast doubt on what happened, who attacked who, and who is the person that's responsible for this tragedy. It's the prosecutor's position that my client had a few problems with Lauren Kanarek and her boyfriend. No big deal. Got angry, just drove down to the house and shot both of them. Shot her and shot at the boyfriend. That's not what the evidence is going to show. The fact will lead you to a far different conclusion. What the prosecutor didn't tell you, what this case is really about, it's about Lauren Kanarek, her father and her boyfriend, devising a plan to destroy this man and drive him crazy. It's about the most devious attempt to destroy another human being that you will ever hear. It's about Lauren Kanarek falsely accusing Michael Barison of all sorts of misdeeds, criminal conduct even, and even the sexual abuse of his girlfriend's small child. And the whole time, ladies and gentlemen, the whole time she's doing this, knowing how her personal attacks were adversely affecting this man and getting pleasure, amusement, even thinking it was funny at him deteriorating. Every man, woman has a breaking point. Some people are stronger than others. That, ladies and gentlemen, is really what this case is about. So there's no misunderstanding what my defense is. I'm not going to leave anything out in this opening statement. My client is not guilty. At the time of the shooting, my client feared for his life. He was suffering from a mental disease and did not know what he was doing was wrong. That concept of purposefulness that the prosecutor talked about. Under the law, our society recognizes that some people may be bad and some people may be sick. The law recognizes that a hostile act may result from some infirmity or sickness of the mind which an individual did not design. It is society's judgment, which is recognized by our law, the law that all of you have been sworn to protect, that a forbidden act should not be punished criminally unless done with the knowledge of wrongdoing. It's important that all of you know at this point, and the judge will instruct you as to the law at the end of the case, but it's important that you know that if a person is found not guilty by reason of insanity, that person will be not freed or indefinitely committed to a mental institution, the court will hold hearings, make determinations that provide for that individual, but also provide to protect the public. Let's look at the evidence. Michael Barisone owned 2 stables, one in New Jersey, one in Florida. Lauren Kanarek and her father make a deal to board and train their horses at Michael Barisone's company. Barisone agrees to train Kanarek and her horses, and also, and this becomes important, agrees to give her living accommodations. At first, things go all right. Then a problem develops between Kanarek, Barisone, and his girlfriend, Mary Haskins Gray. Now, I'm sure Lauren Kanarek is going to take that stand and give her side of the story and try to blame other people for whatever issues arose. However, you will see Lauren Kanarek's social media posts that will tell the real story, the scary story. You will learn that Kanarek becomes obsessed with Mary Haskins and blames her for all her shortcomings. She believes that Mary Haskins, his girlfriend, is trying to destroy her life, her livelihood, and her riding career. You'll learn that she starts causing problems at the stables. She starts bad-mouthing Barisone, Mary Haskins, and the staff members. She starts posting on social media for the world to see disparaging remarks, attacking them and their business. You'll learn that she tells people, which Barisone sees on these posts, that he abuses and neglects horses. In the equestrian community, that is a death knell, obviously. That he's a deadbeat. He doesn't pay his bills. She even calls him a criminal and accuses him of insurance fraud. And then she starts alleging on social media that she has been bullied and that her life has been threatened. And you'll learn that all these things are false. They never happened. Because of those attacks, Michael Barison starts looking into Lauren Kanarek and her boyfriend. They call numerous people in the business. And the equestrian community is a small, close-knit community. She's told various things about Goodwin and Kanarek. He's given names of people. Him and Mary Haskins call these people and talk to them. You will see the true Lauren Kanarek in these posts. And you will see why Michael Barisone becomes afraid of her. What the evidence will show is that at some point, as early as 2018, she's told if she doesn't like it here, to leave. You don't like the way you train, you don't like this, you don't like that, leave. She refuses. You'll see at some point she starts ramping up her social media attacks, starts posting threatening things on Facebook. You'll learn that Michael Barisone, his girlfriend, and other staff members start pulling up her Facebook posts and looking about what she's posting. They see postings of her talking incessantly about guns, carrying guns, sleeping with a 9mm under her pillow. They see posts of her saying that she's being bullied by a 6'3" man and that she's afraid of this person. She talks incessantly about going to war. It's time. War is inevitable. She said things like, weapons hot. After Barisone sees these posts, he contacts the father and basically says, this can't go on. She has to leave. It's important to note at this point, when all these crazy things are going on, when all these posts, threatening posts, are occurring, she is living above Michael Barisone in his house in an upper apartment with her boyfriend. The evidence will show that once these posts are pulled up, everybody is digging into Lauren Kanarek's Facebook posts. You'll find, or they find, Michael Barisone finds a post where Lauren Kanarek threatened to kill both her and Mary Haskins and destroy his business. You'll see the post. Although she uses metaphors, it will be clear who she's talking about and what her intentions are. You will learn that after Michael Barison sees this post, he flees his own home, his castle. He takes his family, the girlfriend, and a small child, and leaves that farmhouse and flees to the stable area. He is now sleeping on a couch, living out of a suitcase in the club area. There'll be evidence to clearly indicate that Michael Barisone is afraid. He's scared. You'll see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that on July 31st, he hires a private security. You'll learn that they ran a background check and gave it to Barisone. That same night, on July 31st, approximately a week before the shooting, Barisone, his girlfriend, and other people are up at the stable area. And numerous people hear Lauren Kanarek screaming that she is going to destroy everything in Mary Haskins' life, everything she loves and holds dear. Upon hearing that threat, Michael Barisone calls 911. Washington Township responds. He says, I am in fear of my life of this woman. The police do nothing. Barisone tries to show him the paperwork, the background check that he got, the threatening post. It's a civil matter. They do nothing. The next day, August 1st, Barisone starts calling people to get help. He calls the general counsel, who he knows, of the United States Equestrian Federation. He calls the CEO of the United States Equestrian Federation, the agency the prosecutor talked about. He calls a police officer who's a friend of his and telling them what's going on. You'll learn on that day, August 1st, Lauren Kanarek comes to the stables. She comes after hours, after the stables are closed. And again, she's now coming after hours to the stables, which have become Michael Barisone's last refuge of safety. She's told to leave by the owner of the property. She refuses, she flips out. Michael Barisone calls 911 again for the second time. They come, Washington Township. I am in fear of my life. Nothing. What's interesting, on that day, August 1st, is that Washington Township calls the Morris County Prosecutor's Office and talk about what's going on. And after that discussion, the police officer tells both Barisone and Lauren Kanarek, Mr. Barisone, you can't restrict her movement on your farm. She could come and go whenever, wherever she wants. You'll learn that they gave Lauren Kanarek free reign of the property, including his now residence. Michael Barisone is so afraid. He has no idea what to do, how to protect himself. He hires a private security guard and pays him $100 a night to sit in front of the stables with his truck pointed towards the farmhouse where Kanarek and her boyfriend are living, to guard them. You'll learn that Barisone is not sleeping at this point. He's walking the property at all hours of the night, trying to protect his family, the people who work there, the horses. You'll learn he is so afraid. On the next day, August 2nd, 5 days before the shooting, he and Mary Haskins send her son home, 11-year-old son. They send him back to the father because they're concerned about his safety. You learn that Barisone's trying to get some evidence or something to convince the police that Kanarek should not be there. You learn on that night he checks their trash and finds Suboxone, empties Suboxone packages in Kanarek's trash. Suboxone is a drug used by heroin addicts. You'll learn on the next day, August 3rd, Kanarek is still posting crazy things after she has been told to leave. You'll learn at that point, around August 3rd, Michael Barisone has a feeling or thinks he's being recorded. Private conversations that he's having with his girlfriend and other people at the stable start being posted or texted or used in conversation. You'll learn that on that day, Lauren Kanarek posts a post and basically says, I have multiple personalities and I am not responsible for my actions. Barisone sees that post. He calls 911 again, a third time. I am in fear of my life. He also tells the police that he thinks he's being recorded. They do nothing. What they do, unbeknownst to Michael Barisone, is that they go and talk to Lauren Kanarek. And what will become important when you're judging someone's credibility is that on that day, Lauren Kanarek tells the police that she's recorded Barisone and the staff. The police do nothing. They conduct no investigation, and worst of all, they don't go and tell Michael Barisone, this woman's recording your private conversations. They just leave the property. On the 4th, 3 days before the shooting, Kanarek is posting crazy texts to Michael Barisone. After she's told to leave, she's texting him that she's going to send people that he doesn't know onto his property, into his stable to ride her horses. She also says she's going to put elderly people or infants in his house, he doesn't know what to do. He calls his lawyer. The lawyer says, if anyone comes on the property, you need releases. On that day, Kanarek comes to the stable again. Barisone tells her, you must sign a release. She flips out, makes threatening remarks. Barisone calls the police, 911, again, for the fourth time. I am in fear of my life. Again, the police do nothing. On August 5th, Kanarek is texting things using the exact words that Michael Barisone and others used in private conversations. He hires a debugging company. He has no idea where this is coming from, how she's recording him. He pays that debugging company $5,000 to come in and sweep the areas. They don't find anything. But you'll see a post where Lauren Kanarek boasts about putting the devices where no one can find them. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that with regards to Barison thinking in his mind that his private conversations were being recorded, that Lauren Kanarek, her father, and the boyfriend were secretly recording numerous conversations. We have over 70 private conversations that they recorded in the residence, the stable, the club area which became his residence, and even his private office. What's worse, not only is Kanarek illegally recording Michael Barisone, she starts using those recordings to taunt him, to push him over the edge. She's posting for everyone to see private conversations. You'll see in one of those postings that Barisone saw that she says she thinks it's funny watching them scurry around trying to have a conversation. Well, that's not all. For that day, Michael Barisone has his lawyer send Kanarek a letter, a 3-page letter, laying everything out, saying, get out. Because Barisone knew that his lawyer had sent that letter, he was concerned for his safety. He personally went to the Washington Township Police Department with stacks of papers and whatever evidence he had accumulated at this point to try to plead with them for help. He doesn't even get into the back. 3 officers come out and basically say, get out of here. You know, we've been to your house. We've told you we can't do anything here. And they push him out of the office. They don't look at anything. On the 6th, the day before the shooting, Kanarek, after she gets that letter to get out, ramps up her attacks even further. She posts a 3-page post falsely accusing Barisone and Haskins of various untrue things. She even puts in those posts for everyone to see the private conversation. On that day, the 6th, the day before the shooting, after the letter on the 5th, Kanarek is served with a formal eviction notice. You'll learn that things get even worse for Barisone. You'll learn that Kanarek and Goodwin filed a complaint with the town saying that Barisone was doing construction in the house and stable with no permits And they made an allegation that both locations were unsafe to habitate. What you'll also learn is that Lauren Kanarek's boyfriend, the one who made the complaint with Kanarek, was the one doing the work. You'll learn that on the 6th, the town comes to Barisone Stadium in New Jersey. They kick him out of his last place of refuge. He is now sleeping on a mattress outside on a porch in front of the stables. He is now virtually homeless. You'll learn the whole time the town was there, and they came in mass. Fire protection, health department, building. Robert Goodwin was there pointing out everything to make sure Barisone would get kicked out of the residence. You'll see how upset Barisone was. And Goodwin saw how upset Barisone was. At one point when the town is there, after he's been kicked out of his stable area and is living on the front porch, Robert Goodwin, when their backs are turned to him, takes his finger, makes it in the shape of a gun, pulls the trigger, and mouths the word to Michael Barisone, "Get ready." You learn that even that wasn't enough for them. Lauren Kanarek wasn't even satisfied with that type of destructive behavior. You'll learn on the day of the shooting, August 7th, she posts another threatening post. She's talking and telling the world that she has eyes and ears in places that can't ever be detected. She talks about having fun watching them. You'll learn that on the morning of the shooting, Robert Goodwin, the boyfriend, and the blacksmith have a problem, an argument. The blacksmith doesn't want to shoe their horses anymore because of what's going on at the stables. You'll learn that he blames Michael Barisone and makes a threat. There's going to be consequences. The day after he uses the finger gesture. That statement was relayed to Barison. It's not over yet. There'll be more evidence. And you will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that Lauren Kanarek set in motion the final, what I call the coup de grace. She did the worst thing any human being could do to another human being. She falsely accused him of sexual misconduct with his girlfriend's son. As the prosecutor said, on the 7th, DCPP Dyfus shows up and confronts both Barisone and Haskett. She's really not supposed to tell anybody anything with regards to their investigation, but you will have evidence that Barisone was made aware of the allegations of sexual abuse. You'll learn at that point, after all that he had gone through and suffered, he starts to have a complete mental breakdown. You'll learn that from that point, he has no memory of what happened. Everything went black. Now, what the evidence will show is that Michael Barisone got into his truck, drove to the farmhouse, he's described, and the prosecutor said in his opening, angry, furious. This is how Robert Goodwin described him. Calm, sorrowful. Sorrowful. Not angry, not furious. According to Goodwin, Michael Barisone says, "Can't we work this out? I don't want to go to war." It's important that you know he uses the word that Kanarek continually taunted him with. At which point, again, according to Goodwin, Goodwin says, it's past that, talk to your attorney. Now this is what happened, what the evidence will show. Robert Goodwin turns his back, walks away. Lauren Kanarek then walks past Goodwin to confront Michael Barisone. They say Michael Barisone just fired 2 shots in her chest and 1 at Goodwin. What the evidence will show is that Michael Barisone was severely beaten by both Goodwin and Kanarek. You'll see pictures of the horrific beating that this man took. Neither of them mentioned in their original statements that Kanarek was involved in this beating. Neither of them mentioned that they had sicked their vicious dog on Michael Barisone. You'll see various bite marks over Barisone's body, including 1 vicious bite to the inner groin area. You'll learn when the police arrived. The Washington Township Police, the same people that had been there 4 times previously. You'll learn when the police arrived. They have no idea who the shooter is. Remember, Barisone's the one that said his life was in danger previously. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that when the police arrive there, they see Goodwin on top of Barisone, beating the hell out of him. Neither of them have a gun in their hand. The gun is on the ground. They're rolling around. You will hear Goodwin's voice in a 911 call. And although he'll claim that those statements were made after the shooting, you can get a sense of Robert Goodwin when you hear him say repeatedly, over and over again, "I am going to fucking kill you. Don't move. I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to kill you." As I said, when the police arrive, they have no idea who the shooter is. The officer, the first officer on the scene, asked the question, "Who's the shooter?" "Robert Goodwin." "Michael Barisone." Case closed. You'll learn that Barisone was beaten so badly, so severely, he was in no condition to do or say anything in response to that question. You will hear evidence with respect to the first officer who arrived on the scene. He describes Barisone as partially conscious. The second officer on the scene describes him as incoherent. The third officer recalls Barisone saying over and over again, "Is this real? I need to wake up." He tells all the medical personnel, the first aid people, EMS, Morristown Medical, and all the people at the hospital, when they're treating him, asking him what happened, he tells all of them, "I don't remember. I have no recollection of the event." You'll learn from the time DCPP arrived that he heard the allegation to the point when he woke up in the hospital, he has no memory of that event. And there'll be testimony with regards to being caused by either the mental breakdown or the severe physical beating he took to his head. You'll learn that after Robert Goodwin points to Michael Barisone and said he's the shooter, they let him walk around. They don't do anything with him. You'll learn that there was a camera right above where this alleged attempted murder occurred. Washington Township was aware of it that night. The Morris County Prosecutor's Office was aware of it that night. Goodwin says it would have captured the whole thing. You'll learn that Washington, like they had done in the past, and the prosecutor's office never seized that camera that night. They allowed the camera to stay in the possession of Goodwin and Kanarek for months. And months later, when they finally put two to two together, they tried to download the information on the camera, but unfortunately, nothing was on it. You're going to hear from two highly trained experts, a psychiatrist and a psychologist, who's done a tremendous amount of work evaluating and testifying in hundreds and hundreds of cases for both the state and for defense cases. They don't just do work for one or the other, which I submit their credibility would be subject to attack. You'll learn that they did extensive, exhaustive evaluations of Michael Barisone. And in their expert opinion, at the time of the incident, Michael Barisone was suffering from a mental defect. And based on his delusions, he generally felt his life was in danger and needed to act in self-defense. And as a result of the mental illness, he was not aware of the nature and quality of his acts, and certainly didn't know right from wrong. Every man has a breaking point. And when you hear the evidence, you may not even need expert testimony. Finally, you will hear overwhelming evidence of the mental torture thrust upon this man, a man with prior mental issues. You'll learn about the exhaustive, the numerous steps he took to protect himself and his family. And you will hear from numerous people who saw him crumbling mentally to the point where they believed he was going to kill himself. Look at the evidence. More importantly, look at the lack of evidence. I submit, with respect to the shooting, you won't know who did what. The only thing you will be certain of, after looking at all the events leading up to the shooting, coupled with Barisone's prior mental health issues, is that under the law, without question, Michael Barisone is not guilty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bilinkas. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the opening statements by counsel have been concluded. Please bear in mind, as I told you at the outset, what the attorneys say to you during their opening statements is not evidence. The evidence only comes from the witness stand. And some of the references and evidence you heard in this case during the opening statements is not admissible for every purpose. It doesn't necessarily go to guilt or innocence. Some of the statements that you heard, for instance, reference to some physical or sexual abuse the defendant may have suffered based on his statements to experts. That's limited to the underlying purpose and the underlying conclusions of the expert witnesses. What did they rely on in order to form their opinion? All right, and there's some other limited instructions I'm going to give you as the case goes along as to the purposes you use certain evidence you hear in this case. Most of that, some of the evidence you heard in the openings is admissible only as it pertains to the mental status of the defendant based on the testimony of the experts. And when you're about to hear that evidence or after you hear it, I will give you some of those limiting instructions so you know exactly how you can use that evidence and how you can't use it. All right, I don't want to do that now. I want to wait until you actually hear the evidence from the witness stand. All right, it's 12:30 now. It's perfect time for our lunch and recess. You will be excused for an hour. We're going to resume at 1:30, and we will start with witness testimony at that time. As I always say, and I'm under a duty to say at the break, please don't discuss the case with anyone. You haven't heard any evidence yet, and that will start this afternoon. Enjoy your lunch. If you are going to stay in the jury room across the hall, you do have to stay in the jury room. There may be witnesses about, the attorneys may be about, and we don't want you accidentally walking into a conversation between the attorneys or witnesses with a defendant and such like that. So you're free to go outside and enjoy Morristown. There's plenty of restaurants that have good lunches. If you go out, please enjoy your lunch. If you stay in, you're welcome to do so, but you will have to stay in that jury room throughout the whole lunch hour. Okay? Understand? All right, very good. Thank you. We'll see you at 1:30. Enjoy your lunch.